Welcome to Crypto Tutors. We are humanizing cryptocurrency and blockchain and are bringing the best trailblazers and success stories like Isaiah Jackson, Tanya Evans, Ian Bellina, Cleve Messidor, and Tinashe Nitaganga on the Crypto Couch. Click subscribe and the bell to be the first to watch the latest interviews every single week.
The sort of number of people involved in the space and the potential for just disruption is so huge that I think that that's the most exciting outcome. Probably also the acceptance level, right? We're finally at the point where even some of the biggest naysayers in the beginning have started. I saw a commercial last night. A famous football player.
Oh, Tom Brady, FTX.
Tom Brady,
yeah.
Yeah, talking, and it was just amazing. So that kind of thing I think is, very exciting, and it's what we really hoped for. It doesn't mean that we're there yet, but I see that major shift happening, right? And at the same time, you're riding out these daily, but also quarterly, right? I mean, there are just these major ups and downs in so many ways in the news. One person saying that everything's overvalued and worthless, and somebody else saying, oh, this is going to be the biggest thing, ever. And so you're just trying to take everything with a grain of salt and just keep things moving forward in a way that you think makes sense, right? And not get too flustered by the little things that are happening in the space. But certainly the shift and just seeing, even interviews like this, I mean, there was no any interest in doing anything like this back in 2013. So it's exciting.
I love the fact that you acknowledge just how, much, how much the industry has matured. And, I agree with you in that we're not quite there, but to see how with absolutely zero marketing, zero promotion, literally just conversations, that the industry has, established a $2 trillion plus market cap. Mm-hmm. And, Martine, especially here in the United States, you see a lot of conversation around, regulations and the government trying to kind of wrap their heads around how to manage, how to govern this commodity. Is it a commodity? Is it derivative? Yeah. And just kind of making these determinations from your, from your perch, from your vantage point. How do you feel about the way that, from a regulatory standpoint, things are going?
I mean, I wish, frankly, that they were further along, because a lot of what is happening in the space has really been around since 2012-13. And the pace at which the government is able to move is just slow. I mean, we all know that.
Space.
But I think, really thinking about, like, we had many, many conversations while I was at Coinbase about the travel rule. And it doesn't really fit well in this space. And so
what's the travel rule for folks that are not familiar with that? Let's make sure that they're clear.
Okay. The travel rule is a rule that is part of FinCEN, the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, which is part of the U.S. Treasury Department. And it basically says that if a transaction exceeds a certain amount, which is written in dollars, right, then you are required as the sender of the transaction to send along with the transaction data associated with the identity of the sender as well as the receiver.
Right.
And when we met with FinCEN, back in the day, I said to them, look, we don't really know who the receiver is, right? The receiver is a Bitcoin address, let's say. Right. And so I'm not even sure you would want to send identity information to a receiver. If you're in a banking world and it's one bank talking to another bank, it makes sense, right? You know that the person receiving the information is a trusted recipient because it's a bank, right, and they're regulated. But in this space, we don't know who that recipient is. And so to send that information, and instead, why don't we think about why we have the travel rule? What is the travel rule trying to accomplish? And how can we accomplish that same thing in this with this infrastructure. And so we went through scenarios where we showed them blockchain transactions, and we said, okay, you want to find unusual transactions, let us show you some. And we went through, we showed, and so there are, I think, other ways to accomplish the goal that are not set on specific rules that were created for a different environment. And what I would love to see is the regulators just opening up a little bit about, and even partnering with the industry, right, on how to accomplish that. Because I think there's so many people in the space who have insight and really understand the technology and can provide solutions. I can't talk about some of the things that we did internally at Coinbase, but I can tell you that even the engineers, the way that we would implement a solution was so innovative. It was always very innovative. And I think this is a naturally innovative group of people, right? And so I think there needs to be a little bit more partnership and open-mindedness. But it's starting, I think. It's, this infrastructure, it really is a little bit of a lot of things. I mean, it's a little bit like cash, and it's a little bit like, a commodity. It's a little bit like a security. It really is. And so you have to think differently about it. And I think, sometimes maybe just sitting down and starting from scratch and saying, let's flesh this out is the best thing to do.
I love the fact that you acknowledge that there needs to be a collaborative effort, a joint effort between public and private sector, because you're talking about a technology that didn't exist, 12 years ago. You're talking about, the cutting edge of innovation. And for futurists like us, we lean in. But when you're talking about, government and especially here in the US, given the level of bureaucracy and, this sort of lack of understanding, I think that the onus also is on the industry to step up, to provide, the knowledge, the education. And that's actually one of the reasons why Crypto Tutors, launched, because we recognized that there was such a disparity between those that understood what was going on and those that did not. And, filling that gap and providing, access to educational resources and thought leaders like yourself, are a few of the tactics that we employ to try to close that knowledge gap.
Want to learn more? Visit cryptotutors.com.